3 easy ways how to get deported from the Czech Republic. No, obviously this is not a guide how to get deported, but ideally how to prevent this. Because it's always easier to prevent problems than try to fix them later on. It's always easier to behave by the rules as long as you know the rules, than try to fix a complicated situation you got into. We see this pretty often, that people come to us when they're already in trouble, even though they should have come before they made some decision that led them to trouble. You know, it's either if you come, I will get to the 3 easy ways to get deported shortly, but I just want to give you the idea what this is all about, because usually people get in trouble because of their own behavior, because of ignoring something, doing something they shouldn't have done, or doing something without knowing what they are actually doing and what consequences it can have. So I definitely advise you, before you make any significant changes in your visa, before you start a business, change employer, before you do anything that might influence your future in the Czech Republic, ideally consult with something to at least get the idea what you're getting into, so you don't end getting deported. So the 3 easy ways to get deported. Number 1 is illegal stay in the Czech Republic. Obviously, I'm not talking about people just like illegally sneaking through the borders and like trying to live somehow in the Czech Republic. That's a completely different topic. But if you're already okay, so there might be a couple scenarios. You come here under the 90 days visa-free stay as a tourist, then you decide to stay. If you overstay the 90 days, whatever reason you have for that, unless you ended up in a hospital, like having all your limbs broken, so you physically cannot move the Czech Republic, if you overstay the 90 days, it's officially illegal. It doesn't matter if you applied for the visa or not. And if the police finds out, they can deport you and they can ban you from coming back for some time. I did another video called Overstaying the Schengen Rule or Overstaying in Schengen Area, whatever, a couple of weeks ago. So check that if you're more interested in this topic. But this is just one scenario. But also if you come here using a short-term visa as a tourist or medical, whatever, unless you have a very serious reason, then you cannot extend your short-term visa. And there is actually one thing which I've seen happening quite often recently, that when you get a short-term visa, you might get a validity of the visa, which might be like 6 months, for example, or 60 days or whatever. But then you also have a specified amount of days you can spend inside of the Schengen space. So the visa might be for 60 days, but you might only be allowed to spend 15 days here. And I've seen this happen, that people confused and they thought, or their employer told them or whatever, that they can stay the 60 days, but in real life they could only stay 15 days. And it doesn't really matter if it's your fault or someone told you or like friend recommended or whatever, but if you overstay your short-term visa, you might even be banned from coming back for a year or half a year, and you might never get a visa again. And this applies also to extensions or switches from visa to visa. I've seen this happen recently as well. That maybe kind of led me to this topic, that even someone who was employed here under the employee card, they relied on their employer to extend their employee card, but the employer somehow didn't do that. Doesn't matter if they forgot or they didn't do it on purpose, but this person also got deported, because if you don't apply for extension, or if you don't apply for change of your purpose of stay within or before your current visa or residence permit expires, you will also be staying here illegally, unless you have the 90 days visa-free exception that you could stay as a tourist on top of that. But unless you have that, you will also be staying here illegally, and it's basically there is no way to fix it. So be very careful about this, and definitely like make reminders in your phone that your visa is expiring on this date. So like make a reminder a couple weeks in advance. We usually remind our clients 3 months in advance. We send them email, hey, your visa is expiring. Sorry. Do you want to extend it? Do you want to switch? And I strongly recommend doing this for you as well. So number two, second most easy or the easiest way to get deported is illegal work. And it's kind of similar to illegal overstay of your visa or illegal staying in the country. Because you can end up in the situation, it's always your fault. You know, it's always your fault. You're the one responsible for your visa. So either if you accept advice from someone from your work, or you don't even ask any questions, or you just do something, you don't verify the facts or whatever, or even if someone tricks you or someone, I don't know, cheats you or whatever, then it's ultimately your responsibility. And the ministry sees it that way. So you will always be the one punished. Of course, your employer who is employing you illegally can be punished as well, but you will be the one primarily. So illegal work is also something, it has multiple levels as well. Of course, some people come here and they already kind of know, or at least can understand that they will be working illegally, that they will be paid under the table, or they will be assigned to something else than they're supposed to. This is not what I'm talking about. Of course, it's one of the possibilities, but that's not what we usually like encounter, because if you come here and you already know that you will be cheating the system, please don't even come. That makes no sense for no side. You will be deported anyway. Your employer get in trouble. You will get in trouble. The Czech Republic will tighten the rules, and it will be harder. You will make it harder for other people who are not cheating to get here. So don't do that. But it sometimes can happen also if you have good intentions. Like you are here, you study, you read somewhere that if you're a student, you can work. You don't verify that, your employer doesn't know. So they tell you, okay, that's fine, you can start working. And then at some point, someone finds out that it's not exactly like that. The rules about working in the Czech Republic are actually pretty strict. There are not too many ways how you can work in the Czech Republic as a non-EU citizen. I also made a video about that, but mainly for spouses, and we have an article on movetoprague.com website where I described the ways how spouses can work. So if you come here under family reunification, if you have the right to work or not, or when. So refer to that video or to that article if you wish to know more. But generally, if you come here, there are not that many ways you can legally get employed in the Czech Republic. So be careful about that. Be careful before you agree working somewhere, and verify what exactly will be the nature of your cooperation and how are you allowed to work. Because there is also a big difference between employment and self-employment. Okay, and many people confuse that. So they will get a B2B contract. Basically, they need the trade license, but they think that they have a standard employment, or vice versa. That they think that that will be a freelance cooperation, but they actually have a work contract, like employment contract. So you need to be also careful about this and like distinguish between these two, employment and self-employment. So that was number two. And number three, can happen to everyone basically, and that is not fulfilling the purpose of your stay. That's a bit complex, but basically it means that if you come here under some purpose of stay, like employment, studies, family reunification, business, that you should stick to that purpose of stay. So if you come here as a student and you quit the school, and you might not even know this, and that's exactly what I was talking about in the beginning, that it's ultimately your responsibility to know about things and verify things before you just do something. But this happens pretty often if you come here as a student and you stop studying, you quit your studies for whatever reason. It can be like a real reason that you're sick and you cannot physically study. It can be just because you don't like the school, whatever is the reason. But if you quit your studies, the school has to inform the Ministry of the Interior about that. So you might think, okay, I just stop going to the school and no one will know and nothing will happen. But the school has the obligation to report that. So the ministry will find out that you quit your studies, and they will also cancel your student residence permit or student visa, and they might deport you, or they will deport you. It could also lead to problems, even if they don't find out, because you quit the school right before the end of the year or something. and then you switch to something else, and at some point the ministry might find out. And even for a completely different application, this could be a big complication, because if you once didn't fulfill the purpose of your stay, where is the safety or security or assurance that you will do it with this new one? So the ministry could also use it as a reason to deny your current application, whatever it is. And this applies to everything. So if you come here under employee card or blue card, you need to be employed. If you're not employed for a certain amount of time, there are some, of course, some bounds or whatever, there are some periods you can be without a job under employee card. But if you exceed that, the employee card or blue card will be canceled eventually. It's a bit more tricky with other purposes of stay, like family reunification. It's kind of, you should be here primarily to be with your spouse. So the ministry could question if you are here under family reunification and you work full-time, or if you're here as a student and you work full-time, the ministry could question your real motivation. Are you really a student if you only go to school 18 hours a week and you work 40 hours a week? Or are you here really to be with your husband or be with your wife if you work 80 hours a week and you don't even see your husband or wife? So you also need to keep this in mind when you're doing things like you have a job, like employment, and you're trying to get a trade license on top of it and run your own business. Or if you try to combine other things as well, like family reunification and work, and studies, or studies and work. So you need to keep these things in mind to make sure that you don't get into the situation where the ministry could question the fulfilling of purpose of your stay. This also means, for example, staying outside of the Czech Republic. If you come here under whatever type of visa or residence permit, family reunification, employee card, whatever, you get it for 2 years, and then you spend one year out of that traveling and maybe working in other countries, as a deployed employee or whatever, then also the ministry could question if you really came here to work in the Czech Republic or to live with your beloved one, if you spend most of the time not in the Czech Republic. So that's another thing. And there are many other reasons the ministry could see you as not fulfilling the purpose of your stay. So if you want to make some changes, if you want to switch from one visa to another, from one residence permit to another, if you want to add something else to your residence permit, like the trade license or studies or something like that, please always consult with someone who has experience and who understands the consequences. Because if a friend tells you something, or if you find something in a Facebook group, or even if you find something in a blog, I would not really trust it with my life or my residence permit in some country where I plan on living for a couple more years. Of course, ultimately it's your decision. And if you decide to take an advice of a friend of yours, and you're fine with being deported just because the advice is not applicable in your case, it might have worked for him or her, but it might be completely different for you, then of course it's your decision, but also be ready to face the consequences. That's everything I wanted to say, I guess. If you have any questions